Now the racing is over, the conversation begins, here at the Rear Winging It F1 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Harry Mckay, and I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Ellie Ledwell.
I'm Menell.
It's good to be here, guys. I thought we'd kick off our very first episode with a brief introduction of how we got into the sport and what our first season was.
Oh, well, my mum would say it was her, but really I think I remember Jenson Button I can't remember what race, but I just remember him. It might have been 2008. It was at my grandparents', and Jenson Button won, and I was hooked from there on.
Not a bad way to get into it.
No,
Yeah,
it's not too
British
bad.
Success.
Yeah.
I probably started watching it. Well, it was just on in the background, so I don't know when I first got into it, but my first memories are from 2007, 2008, Hamilton. That's probably McLaren. That's where I got into it. I'd say 5-6 years old, yeah.
Cool.
Harry,
I was definitely a bit later than you guys. Never been too much into sports, so when this sort of caught my eye, it was
2021 when Red Bull started doing well.
well, that would be it. But 2016, and my first Formula One experience was actually going to a race, the Malaysian 2016 race where Hamilton's engine blew up, and sort of helped seal the title for Rosberg. So
Is that why your dad was crying?
Yeah, he definitely was upset. So it was quite the way to get into it. But since then, about 6 years ago, been pretty hooked. So. And obviously we're going to try and keep our biases out this, but if you've got to support one team, who are your teams?
McLaren, 100%.
Depends who wins.
That's a good answer.
But Mercedes normally, so I go Mercedes.
I got to be Red Bull, mostly because Ricciardo was in the team at the time, but, you know.
Looks nice in papaya now.
I was going to say, I'm liking the Aussie-British lineup for McLaren, so that's
Don't
not
get
too
started
bad.
on Aussies right now, so.
More on that.
Yeah, cricket as well, it's just it's not going too well.
Not great.
No.
Right, so I thought we'd start off first episode looking back at the 2021 season, which no matter what team you support, as we all support different teams, or how you felt about the many controversies, it was the most exciting season we've had in many years, indeed the most eventful I've ever seen. Would you two agree with that? Or?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think Netflix made it even
yes.
more, so
I was
Yeah.
going to say we are
more
recording
twists,
it
more dramas.
just as Drive to Survive's come out. So
Been watched it before I come on the show.
okay, so I thought we'd go.
I'm not actually an F1 fan really, just
like
watch
the
that and now
Netflix show.
I'm here.
Right, I thought we'd go through some categories
Yeah.
and sort of have a discussion about our favourite moments of the season rather than going race by race. I'm sure you're sick of death of hearing about them all.
Sure, I'd love to hear all that.
So long ago.
2
I don't
hours.
remember.
So I thought we'd kick off with the best qualifying lap of the season. There was some pretty intense
Very
ones,
good
some
ones.
unusual ones.
He hasn't
Yeah.
do my notes order, so that's great.
Well, we'll
Cheers.
start with Ellie if you want to.
Yeah. So I know at Interlagos in Brazil, Hamilton had a great qualifying, but then he got disqualified, so it kind of wiped it from the record book. So I went George Russell at Spa in the wet. His highest had been at Williams, P2. He qualified there for the Mercedes the other year, but for a Williams, it was a very, very good result. It was extremely wet. I remember all of the cars. Norris had quite a bad crash in Q3. But, he was looking good for Q1 right until the end, and then Norris managed to crash out right at the end.
I was going to say, I remember being on the
yeah.
edge of my seat. And
Yeah, it was very, very good. Shame about the race, obviously.
I
There was only a few
remember
laps.
standing
of
up
it.
celebrating.
But Verstappen managed to get pole that day, but I thought Russell, in a very
gonna
slow
say.
Williams, did very, very well.
I think it just shows the caliber of driver he is. That in those moments he took advantage, and as obviously the no race, he put it where it mattered.
That's the race of the season, really.
Yeah, I was going to
The
say.
half points, yeah.
I think that's a solid lap. But Mitchell, can you beat it? What is your best
I had a
qualifying
few
lap?
contenders, to be fair. Because had Leclerc and Monaco, then obviously crashed on
Crashed into
purpose.
the wall,
Yes.
allegedly.
MP1, so I had that. I think that was really good. I had Gasly in Qatar, P4. I was thought
Hell of a lap.
that
Very
is
good lap.
I highly rate him anyway,
Yeah.
and you'll hear more about that. But surprise one, Giovinazzi.
Oh,
I was going to pick him because I thought I struggled to say his name, so I put Gio. So Gio in Monza
Italian Jesus.
and P10.
P10.
Yeah, and I thought
To drag the Alpha into Q3 is very impressive.
no, yeah, and he actually got a quicker time in second practice than his third. So
And all season he was out qualifying Kimi, which for a world champion is very impressive.
40 years old.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
He's
It's
still
quite
a
a
very-
drain sport, but it's still
It's still, I mean, Gio is, he's not the most notable driver on the grid, and it is unfortunate he's not here this season. But I think,
I thought, it was a nice way for.
It was
I'm sure he'll appreciate that on the show
when he
he's
listens.
listening. Yeah,
Oh.
but no, I went for him.
Cool. Well, I noticed you mentioned somewhere people have crashed out, and I was thinking back, and I try to keep my biases out of this, but I do have a Red Bull one for this. I got Max Verstappen in Saudi Arabia. Now, he qualified. He got third, I believe, in qualifying. But the lap that I'm talking about is the very last one where he crashed
right at
on
the end.
on the last turn, because there's some laps where you can just feel a driver has got control of that car and he's pushing to the limit. And I think it just was everything I wanted from qualifying, from the sport.
Yeah.
A driver, just carrying that car more than the car carrying him. And unfortunately, that's part of Formula One. Sometimes you crash, and I think that's what made it even more special.
He was
especially,
pushing it
I was going to
too
say,
far,
the
maybe.
penultimate race. Yeah, he just went over the limit. But
Yeah.
that would be mine. So
Yeah.
some solid suggestions
Solid,
from everywhere. We're going to raise the stakes a little bit here.
Oof, 10.
Best podium.
Ooh.
So the best three that made it to a podium. Mitchell, do you want to start with you?
Oof, I struggled with this one. I did. There's quite a few contenders, to be honest.
Lots of good options.
I can't tell you them because they're not on my notes for some reason. Ran out of time. But Alonso, though, P5, I've written down, apparently. I think that's good. Came back to the sport after a couple-year break, after being at McLaren. He's been around the area, especially McLaren working as, I don't know what he's working as, but... Yes, I went for him at P5, and
It's not on the podium.
I just read my notes there. I was like,
His
no.
P3, you mean?
He started off at P5
Yeah.
with Norris and Sainz behind him. Good qualifying. Could have put him as this was no qualifying I could have done, but so he ended up in P3.
Yep.
So I thought that's very impressive.
Hell of a
Overtaking
race.
Gasly, he started off in P2.
I was going to say I might be coming back to that particular race a little bit later on, but yeah, I think that's a solid podium now. Ellie,
I went for Monza, Italy, obviously a very nice track. McLaren won 2, first win since 2012. Daniel on top, Lando.
it was a good moment.
Yeah, it was a good moment.
Weird that I'm a McLaren fan picking.
Yeah,
that.
and
Surprising
Bottas was third after I think a penalty to Perez, and he started 19th, so 19th to 3rd is a cracking.
Hell of a drive,
Hell of a
especially
drive.
from Bottas, who struggles through the midfield.
Yeah, definitely. Hamilton and Verstappen obviously crashed out that race, which opened the window for Daniel to win. It was when they landed on top of each other, and the halo saved Hamilton's life, really. So that's what I went
say.
for.
Probably the most exciting, maybe most unexpected podium. I mean, I like Daniel Ricciardo. I love Norris, so that's a solid pick.
Yeah, this season had like the most different podium people and the most different winners. So it was nice to have 3 people that
I think that's because Max and Lewis kept crashing into each other.
Yeah.
That might
Kept
be the
thinking
main
it was
reason.
bumper cars, but
yeah.
Well, that's another reason I liked why it was so close, because you get these unexpected moments when, if you got 2 great drivers pushing, you're going to get crashes. And if you're there to pick up the pieces, you get cool podiums.
Yeah.
It's added a bit more to the races.
Max
I felt.
did get a 3-place penalty for the next race after that crash where he
did,
was
yeah.
on top of Hamilton.
I don't
But
think
it's,
when one driver's on the top of the other, it's hard to argue it wasn't their fault. But I've gone with the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, particular favourite track of mine. It was a Perez on the top step, Vettel second, Gasly third. Perez obviously second to Max. It was quite nice to get him on the top row. He took advantage of a crash from Verstappen and a mistake from Hamilton. So right place, solid second driver move. I think it's cemented in my mind that he is the right driver. If you think back to Ocon, Gasly while he was in the team, they weren't sort of there to pick it up. But the main reason I love getting old world champions back on the podium, I think it's such a feel-good moment, and to have Gasly there as well, who really deserves it, and push that car every step of the way.
Yeah,
I think
he had a great last couple seasons. Obviously,
last 2, apart from the Red Bull.
getting booed out of the Red Bull, but he came back very strong.
Quickly forgot about that, and then
made them regret it. I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I think-
Albon hasn't been doing anything well. Well, it's a bit
Well,
harsh,
back
but
in
He's
the-
only back in.
back in the Williams
Yeah.
for this coming season. But
be interesting that.
right, so here's a big one: the best race of the season. Now, there were a lot of races to choose from.
I think I picked the wrong one.
I'll be
now,
interested to see.
be honest.
But because there were so many races and there were some thrilling ones, I
Yeah.
think there's multiple. I could compile, probably 17, 18 of the races I think were memorable, worth watching, which is rare. I think over the last few
especially
years.
this season, Mercedes, sure.
Yeah. So I'll start us off this time. I guess I haven't done that. I'm gonna go with Saudi Arabia. Now,
I think that's mine. Well, that's the one I would pick as well. But
yeah,
I've gone different. Tried to.
It was a controversial one. Obviously, first time it was on the calendar. I do think Formula One has to look at itself and question why we are racing at some of these tracks. The human rights issues, stuff like that. I wasn't totally for it. I didn't think the track was going to be very good. I didn't think the track was going to be
I
ready.
didn't think it would be finished. In
No,
time.
I didn't think. I thought they'd be racing on sand.
Yeah,
To be honest, so
seeing some of the photos I was showing you of the track being
yeah.
built.
Imported more slave labour. So
Well, yeah, I was going to say many issues with it, but I do think it really showed the character of some of the drivers, Hamilton and Vettel. No matter what you think of them as drivers, whether you're a fan or not, the activism they showed, just sending these messages, I think was really positive. You can argue the impact that may have had or not have, but I think it shows that this soft power idea and pushing, a positive agenda could work. And if
Yeah.
you're going to race there anyway, I'm glad the drivers took advantage of that.
Yeah.
But the race itself, not many people expected it to be good.
no.
But being the penultimate race of the season, my God, it was non-stop carnage, really, a disaster. We had, I believe, something like 6 retirees, maybe more. Give you a brief rundown. Fairly normal start qualifying. After, obviously, Verstappen's crash. Hamilton first, Bottas second, Verstappen third. But on the very first lap of the race, Mick crashed at the same turn 21-22 that people had crashed in qualifying, which led to a safety car. Bottas had held Max up before the pits so that Mercedes could double stack. And I know Max was very annoyed about that, but it worked because Max stayed out on track, and then they red flagged the race. He got a fresh set of tyres, started the lap, I believe, second. Still first. Ocon then overtook Hamilton, which was a bit of a move. Couldn't quite keep the place, though, because Perez, Mazepin, and Russell all crashed at the restart. It was a little pincer movement on Perez.
3 into 2.
Another red flag, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That famous. Yeah, 3 into 2. Max has to give back the place to Hamilton from the last restart. So Ocon restarted the race P1. Which, I mean, in the Alpine
Just
was
get
quite
Ocon
impressive.
there.
I mean, it felt, and I think in the title kind of thing, you could say he was in the way. I know.
I literally couldn't remember.
I remember them being
Ocon being number one.
I remember them being on the radio, and they were trying to get him pushed back. And Toto and Christian Horner, they wanted him pushed behind into third.
He was totally doing this through emails.
Well, I remember Horner said, they sort of were bargaining with the FIA. We'll come to this, but they were bargaining with the FIA and basically wanted Ocon as the sandwich or behind Hamilton at a point. But anyway, Ocon started P1. Verstappen takes the lead, remains in the lead till lap 37. So this was a good 20 lap sort of stint. Hamilton goes for the overtake and runs him off the track. Another controversial overtake. Stopping an overtake.
Overtake, but
Max is told to give the position back, and here was the most controversial moment of the race. Hamilton claimed Max brake tested him.
Well, it's like that or Max stalled. So I've been there myself, being a new driver. So.
Yeah, well, I was
I say
say
new
Max
driver,
is...
it's been a couple of months, but so I just think he just didn't see Lewis coming. But you should expect him to be behind
The
there.
team had told him to give the place back, though.
Yeah,
so
so
I believe it was at the same moment he was
Okay.
being told.
Yeah, I'm trying to jog my memory here, so
Yeah.
it's a bit.
Yeah.
So don't come at me if I'm
I was
wrong.
going to say. I wanted to hear from the more Mercedes fan, but I think that was more of a miscommunication.
Yeah.
No, but you have to expect Lewis to be behind you.
I think so. You can. I know.
Was it in his mirrors or I don't know.
He had plenty of room on the left-hand side of the track, so I think he was sort of more expecting him to go past rather
Yes.
than be so
But-
close. But I don't think Hamilton knew what was
But
happening.
surely if you're braking, I know they're going 200 miles an hour, so it's a bit harder. But like, surely if you brake, you're looking at your mirrors.
Yeah.
I know they've got no rear
Yeah.
mirror. Like,
I would like to
thing,
think it
but
wasn't
I don't
done on
know.
purpose, and I don't think the
I don't think
evidence
it was on
there.
purpose, but I think it was a bit of a. He knew he was behind him, but like, he
It's
just
'cause-
didn't know. I don't know. Do you not think it was too like he was too close? So.
I think he just didn't want to. He wanted to let Hamilton through in a way that he would get the slipstream and the DRS that would enable him to
Yes.
overtake him straight away. But obviously, Hamilton didn't want to do that because Hamilton
Yeah.
was smart enough to see the trap that they were
I was
setting.
going to say, I think it was that the positioning of the DRS. It was unfortunate that was the stint of the track they were on, but I think that could very much explain it. Yeah. But from then on, Max does give the position back. He gets a 5-second time penalty for the earlier, the first time he ran Hamilton off the track, which I think was more clear cut his fault. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway. It was a 1-2. So quite a duller end to a quite exciting race, but
No,
I think that was enough.
Definitely, yeah. That was a hell of a race for sure.
Yeah.
And nicely described. Pretty much pictured it
Yeah.
word by word, pretty much.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, but it
I've only got
feels...
2 bullet points
I
on
know.
mine, so I wasn't expecting much.
Well, I was going to say, I just thought it was so chaotic, I'll cram everything in. But
Yeah.
Ellie, what's your best race?
I went for Sochi in Russia. Obviously, not going to be there this year, but it was straight after Spa, so straight after the McLaren 1-2, and Norris is on pole, is looking great, is leading most of the race, and then the rain starts falling right at the end. Hamilton and Norris, they both resist the going on the intermediates or the wets at the beginning at first, but Hamilton eventually, he did decide to come in. Norris stayed out, and I think he did obviously pay for that. He ended up finishing in 7th, which was obviously
Quite a
heartbreaking and it was his call on the strategy, and he, I guess, went the wrong way with it. But
I think it's
It's all
just
about
experience.
hindsight, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, hindsight as well.
I
I
guess
think Lewis was looking to do the same.
Yeah.
He was surprised he stayed out.
because
He didn't stay
Lando
out, so.
was in front, Hamilton could just do the opposite, and
Yeah.
by the time Lando had gone back around for the next lap,
That
it was
lap.
too late.
Yeah,
I think whatever happened, Lewis was going to win that though.
Yeah.
I know people are saying would be biased, but
And
I just think he would have got overtaken.
It
Even
was-
without the rain, to be honest.
it was an absolutely massive winning margin. Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, and Hamilton was 53 seconds in front of Verstappen, which is a very, very
mean,
big margin.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost a minute. It's almost like the Mercedes of a few years ago where they
Yeah.
would clear by 30-odd seconds, but that is...
It was definitely an anomaly of the season,
Yeah,
but I
for
think
sure.
the circumstances that the race ended
I
in
was gonna
is
say,
obviously
yeah.
why. But it was a great finish, I thought. It was a good
Definitely.
race throughout, and that end, I was on the edge of my seat.
No, yeah. Do we watch it together?
I think we might have watched it together.
I think so. I remember
know.
being...
Crammed in the kitchen.
yeah, in a little room watching it. I think
Dishes on the floor everywhere.
I think the main thing was when you have such a tight championship battle, anytime you get someone else, especially off the back of the 1-2, it was like, is this a resurgent McLaren? Are we seeing something special here? And I think it was a real shame for Norris, but I think it shows, the driver that can win championships is there in him. We just
Yes.
need
No,
a bit of experience and a better car under him.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance this year, but I think it's for next.
He's
next
signed a
episode.
multi-year contract, so he's going to be there for a while. So hopefully they can put the
Yeah.
car underneath.
Again,
him.
he's won another one. What most people had it right, including myself. And I'm talking more about him on the next episode, so wait for that. So,
Perfect.
Your best race, Mitchell.
well, mine was I didn't want to do the obvious, but I've gone obvious. It was Monza, which was voted fans' favorite race of the season.
Okay.
So it was quite an easy one to do, and I thought
Mm.
I was running out of time to pick one, so I've gone for that. So I started on September. It was in September. I just wrote it down. Qualifying went Bottas 1, Hamilton 2, Max 3, Norris 4, Ricciardo 5, Gasly 6.
Mhm.
Then the sprint race went to ended as Bottas in P1, Max P2, and then Daniel in P3.
And while you mentioned sprint qualifying, obviously Monza we had 3, I believe, over the season. Do you guys like it? Did you like it in Monza?
I don't know.
Ambivalent?
It just didn't help Lewis, did it?
No.
So it's hard to be biased, but I think definitely it's more entertaining.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm a
Do you not?
bit of a
I think it's more
pure-
entertaining. I know
Um,
Perez after that said it was boring.
Yeah.
I
After
don't
that,
A
like
lot of the
sprint
drivers
race.
are not fans, I believe.
No,
No.
Perez, he came out after that sprint race, said just boring, didn't like it.
Mm.
I do like it. And I think it adds a bit more.
More racing.
It's more
which,
racing.
As a fan, you kind of...
Does it not make a
But-
bit more, like, the race itself less...
I think it weakens qualifying, and I
Yes,
think it
weakens the race.
'cause
Yeah,
the
it makes
orders
it just less
shuffled around a
special
bit
to me.
better. Yeah.
But
Because-
if they want to continue it, I'm not going to
Qualifying,
complain.
the pace over one lap is so important.
Yeah.
You know, George Russell is an amazing qualifier. He qualifies incredibly well, but he doesn't have the car to win very many points. But
Yeah.
I think the position on the track at the beginning, being able to put everything into one lap round, I think that's the measure of how good a driver is by themselves.
Yeah.
And I think then having your qualifying based on the people around you can be a bit harsh
Yeah.
if you get hit, if you have a puncture, if there's so many other variables. I think it's unfair.
Yeah, I do think that's just racing though. And if they do get rid of it, I would, be happy. But if they kept it, I'll also be happy. So
I can see that. I'm not, I'm not up in arms every time it happens, but I'm just, pretty ambivalent.
do you think it does ruin the race itself though? It makes it less
Yeah.
special. It feels like, I just watched this yesterday because
Yeah,
you just
for
did.
sure. You almost get a taste of what's to come, and then it's
Yeah.
over, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah, the sprint race is better than the race sometimes.
All right, Monza, let's go.
Monza.
The actual race.
I am. The actual race now. So it started, of course, and then so I'm trying to the race itself. There you go. So, because Bottas was penalised for engine, because that's when Toto changed his engine. So he started off in 19. So Daniel took pole, and then Max Verstappen was P2. So then Daniel overtook Max at the straight. No, Max started P1, sorry. Then Daniel overtook Max.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton attempted to overtake Max on turn 4, but then was pushed wide by Max, lost a few places. And then Ricciardo held Max for 22 laps until he pitted. And then it was a slow pit for Max, what affected him.
Yes.
And then
A
Hamilton
rare-
also had a slow
Red Bull pit stop.
Yes,
fail.
yeah. Instead of 1.9 seconds, it was 11.9. So slowed him down. And Hamilton had slow pit stop as well. And because of Norris, Norris was able, it was a 4.1 second pit stop, but then Norris was able to just overtake him. And then that had to held up Hamilton, what meant Max and Lewis were in the final straight, or that straight there, going to turn 2.
Yes.
And that's when the crash
He came out of the
Yeah.
pit stop.
Yeah, and that's
then,
when he double-decked him. So
Yeah, it
Bit
was a
of
real...
argy-bargy.
yeah.
I mean, the events to get to that position where they were both, one on track, one coming out of the pit at the same time.
It was like it just had to happen.
It's
Wasn't
pixel
it? It was
perfect
made.
almost,
It
yeah.
was because they both got delayed.
Yeah.
So then just Max side, like I say, just went on top of him.
Yeah.
And then
a bit too aggressive.
a
sort
bit
of
too aggressive.
He
lunge.
could have taken his life. A bit too aggressive
Yeah,
is putting
a
it
bit too- well,
nicely.
yeah.
Obviously, he didn't realise that was going to
It
happen.
was just
But-
friendly banter. They say. So.
Yeah.
But no. So
And then, after that, it was a pretty smooth sailing, right?
no,
So-
it literally was. It was. I was just looking at my notes here and just said, there was a few incidences where Ooh.
Well, do you want to
I
just...
need to flip my notes.
Do you want to skip straight to the podium, to the shoeies?
Oh, you can do, but Sergio Perez had a penalty. He finished P3, but had a penalty
Yes.
because
Was it 5 second?
5-second penalty for going off the track and gaining time or position.
Advantage.
Yeah, advantage. Better word to use. But so the podium finished P1, it was 1-2 from McLaren,
Yeah.
Ricardo and Norris, and then P3 for Bottas, who started P19.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned
Yeah.
it. So
I was going to say hell of a drive.
Hell of a drive.
it was a hell of a drive. It was. And it was hell of a race, to be honest.
Important question.
Maybe not as there was some bits what was exciting, but maybe not.
Would you ever
Exciting
drink
race.
out of someone else's sweaty shoe?
If it was Daniel
Oh,
Ricciardo's.
I wouldn't, honestly.
Because I've done it already, so it's not nice.
Probably a weird tradition, but a tradition nonetheless, and I'm excited every time it happens.
Yeah, even I know it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
I've only seen it about once from Monaco, so
Yeah, well, I was going to say
does it
rare,
win much?
but... Right. I think that closes out our races of
I think it is.
the season. Let's go on to driver of the season. Obviously, Hamilton and Verstappen were pushing every single race. These are two drivers on the top of their game with some of the fastest cars that we've seen in quite a while. But there was a lot of other surprises. A lot of drivers that, amongst the chaos, were taking advantage of every race. Ellie, who is your driver of the season?
Well, as you said, Lewis and Max, they were beating their teammates like 20 seconds consistently. Absolutely incredible from both of them. There was great performances for Sainz in the Ferrari first year there. Alonso first year back. Vettel first year in the Aston Martin. Like Lando and Russell, young British drivers, did very, very well. But I went for Ocon, which is a bit controversial because obviously Alonso, he did score more points. He scored 81 to Ocon's 74, but it was the tightest teammate battle all season long. Races, it was 9 each in terms of who did the best. Qualifying was 11-11, so they were very, very close. And I thought Ocon stood up very well. He gave a good account of himself against a multi-world champion. I know that Mitch was going to say he's a bit past it, Alonso,
I totally agree.
but
Got a bit of sore throat,
yeah.
so I don't want to argue.
Yeah.
So.
I do think Alonso has still got it. I think
No, I think
he
he
might not
does.
be
I
as
think-
sharp, but
what is he now? 40?
But I think he's
50,
proved that
51.
he doesn't care about that, and his car, when he's got a good one, doesn't care either. He can push that to the limit,
Yes.
as we've shown.
So-
P3. 9 for 9.
Yeah.
They had a good season, really, and I think Ocon.
yeah.
That second half of the season, not so
No,
much.
But
but
the
it's the
first
full
half,
year.
yeah.
That's what you got to judge
And
it off.
obviously he won his first race in
Yeah.
Hungary. Obviously,
But-
Alonso held Hamilton up for a very, very long
Yeah.
time, which really did enable him to
Yeah.
win the race. But I thought it was his first season back in Formula
Yeah.
One. Obviously, he was booted out beforehand, and I thought he stood up very well against a two-time world champion.
No, I think Alonso, like I say, is good. But at 40, it does take a lot of you still.
Yeah.
So he can still be good and high level, but I don't know. I think he's came in pretty new. I know he's been around the setup and still be racing, but he's beaten. He's been
enough.
beaten by Alonso Ocon, so I wouldn't give Ocon. He doesn't even make my top 5, to be honest.
Fair
But
enough.
he's a good
I think
driver.
I think most people wouldn't, but I can definitely not see
He's
it.
surprised me. He had a
would
good
agree.
altogether. He had a good season.
He might not have been the best driver
Yeah.
of the season, but he was the driver that I think had their best season
Yeah.
or the most unexpected. Like I didn't expect him to do as well as he did, which is why I put him as
Yeah.
my driver of the season.
Yeah, I think he did beat my expectation, but not enough to get. I think there's a lot better drivers. He had not
right,
exactly
let's-
surprised me a bit more.
Who's your driver of the season, Mitchell?
It's tough now. Ocon. Probably Sainz. No, I think probably it is Sainz.
Yeah.
I think. And I'm looking at it. He's got 4 podiums. It's gonna be hard to
No,
debate
I-
this
I-
one.
I
but
100% agree. I think
but no,
Sainz
I am taking
aced
the
it.
Sainz. Coming 5th, beating Leclerc.
Yep.
No,
Yeah.
Sainz came in as the number 2 driver.
No one expected that.
No.
Really.
No, to beat him first of all, and if you take away Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, Max, he's topped that
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
list.
Best of the rest kind of thing.
Best of the rest is a good way to put it. And 4 podiums and stuff. So
I mean,
I think it's just been consistent. Not exactly with podiums or wins, but he's always finished. He always finishes top 10. The race I've watched, he's always in the top 10 at least, and he was just the most consistent driver out there, out of the best and the rest.
Yeah. Would you
feel.
like a fun little fact?
I was going to say, I know you've got a fun fact for us.
So, Sainz completed every lap of every race that.
I mean, that's
Obviously,
impressive in
yeah,
itself.
which
right?
is very impressive. First time it was only the 10th time I think it had been done. The first time in a very long time. And he completed 1,236 laps. Obviously, Spa didn't happen, so there was less than there should have been. Nikita Mazepin, he completed 1,007 laps, which is 80%, which is the equivalent of Sainz doing 22 races and Mazepin doing 17 and a half complete races.
Yeah.
So it's
not the best performance
Sorry,
from the
Mazepin,
Russian, but
he was in my consideration for driver of the season. But
yeah, maybe if we, just look at the very much last place.
the consistency of Sainz and the reliability of the car was very impressive,
say,
especially when Leclerc had
if his
issues with it.
Mazepin's dad wants to sponsor us, then
I think you can.
maybe not a good time right now, but
I think you can argue that Leclerc had, there's sparks of brilliance. He's a great driver, and I think he showed that over the season. But the inconsistency, the crashes, over a season it builds up, and I think Sainz very much deserved
no, I think
that.
consistency is the key. Like
Yeah.
Ocon had a incredible first half, to be fair, but then just fell away and just
Yeah.
It's driver of the year, not half season, unfortunately. If it was, I was going to give it to him. I do rate Ocon. I do like him, but
All right, my driver of the season. I'm gonna chuck an honourable mention, which I think Mitchell has mentioned, but Pierre Gasly. We talked about it a little bit before. I think he had an incredible season. I think he dragged that AlphaTauri to places it shouldn't have been. He got podiums, he got points, and I mean, I know Tsunoda's a rookie. He had a lot of trouble with the car, but he did trounce him, Gasly.
It was the biggest gap. He was the most
So-
dominant over his teammate Gasly.
Like I said, I'm a massive fan of Gasly.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
bit up his arse, but I am.
He's a great driver.
Good looking guy as well, so I'll take it. But no, I'm a massive fan. And I think in a couple of years, he'll be Red Bull number 2.
I do think he's
You know
got
how-
it in him, to fight for championship.
You know how
Yeah.
Red Bull are with the second drivers, so Perez will be gone in a couple of years.
for sure, if
I don't
he's-
know if Gasly would want the seat back though. To be
No,
honest, I could imagine.
I don't know. I think he'll take it. Like I was saying before, I don't know where else
I
is
think
open.
he will take
I think
it,
Hunter
but
will take it.
if there's a gap somewhere else, I'd like
I
to see him
think,
somewhere
yeah,
else.
I want him to be number 1 somewhere.
Yeah.
Like
For
a top 2.
A number 1 driver, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know where that could be.
Maybe
Maybe when Norris goes to Mercedes and
we'll see. We'll
McLaren.
It's a few years away.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Norris, I've gone with him for driver of the season.
Ooh.
I think the moments of brilliance was there. He was fairly consistent. As a bigger Daniel Ricciardo fan, I was glad to see him at McLaren. I think they're on the up. I did not expect him to get beaten so heavily by Norris.
Yeah, he struggled
He
for sure
did
with the
struggle
car.
changing cars. I know a lot of drivers did, apart from Sainz. But Norris just every race you're thinking, out of these 2 drivers, and Norris is there, Norris in the points, and I think it is a
He was.
shame.
And I think Hamilton started to get frustrated
I think so.
at one point.
I think it was a shame that he didn't get his win.
Yes.
And
He deserved
Ricciardo
one.
did. He did deserve it, but I think, the consolation there is he'll get there.
No.
Yeah. After
he'll
Sochi, seeing him in the
Say-
giving
yeah.
the press
Yeah.
tour and
It was
that, it
great.
was devastating. He was so beating himself up. It was just,
Yeah.
it was not
It
nice
was hard
to
to
watch.
see.
Yeah.
It was hard to see.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He will.
I think we should call our podcast the Norris Show.
we are big fans. It's time. We have sort of covered the main, big ones. So I thought we'd go for something a little bit different. The best radio message of the season. Now I always enjoy when they pop up mid commentary. Sometimes it's quite
Yeah.
annoying. You don't get much, but sometimes it's either hilarious. It shows the skill and the intensity of what it's like to be a driver. Sometimes it shows the desperation of the driver or the bosses.
I'll say.
So Ellie, what is your radio message of the season?
Well, it's not actually in a race. It was in FP2, but just it made me chuckle, to be honest. It was only one of the only FP2s I was watching. I was obviously procrastinating work, and it was Kimi Räikkönen and his engineer. I think his engineer was just trying to wind him up a bit in Bahrain, and Kimi's asking, "Can you hear me?" And the engineer's replying, "No," even though he can obviously hear him. And Kimi, obviously, in true Kimi fashion, got quite annoyed by it.
Any
Can we get
Kimi
annoyed
annoyed radio
ever?
Yeah.
makes my day, and that was a good
Yeah,
one.
I was
really
say.
good.
I was looking at mine. I was looking at a few Kimmy ones. Like, which one do you want to pick?
Yeah.
We still
Yeah.
have Kimmy ones, really.
I think it was
It's gotta be missed.
a couple seasons ago, but Kimi was told to pit, and he's halfway down going into the pits, and his engineers changed his mind, and Kimi loses it. He's like, "What do you want me to do?" And I just, I thought that was a very Kimi moment. Other
Yeah.
drivers would have been a bit more reserved. I've I've got two. One is a bit more of a.
You did say we could have two.
Well,
I had a few other Kimmy ones I could add in.
Yeah.
I think well, I'll leave that one to last. But my favorite one is Alonso on the radio. He's fighting for P3. Ocon has Hamilton behind him, closing the gap. And, you know, Alonso needs Hamilton to be held up. So he says, tell Esteban to defend like a lion. And I think Ocon gave it everything he got. Obviously, he had a lot different tyres. Hamilton was on fresher tyres. But I think it's the best part of Alpine to me is that teamwork, is that older and younger driver that can work well. Doesn't seem to be a lot of bitterness or rivalry, just pushing as much as they can each other.
I think by that could be for the championship. You just never know in the future.
Exactly. I
think
that'd be a good
Alonso's
pairing.
definitely trying to like help Ocon because obviously he's going out of the sport and Ocon's one for the future, I guess. So there's a lot of, I think, shared wisdom going on in that garage.
That's true.
Well, I'll chuck in my other one. The final race of the season, the last lap. Toto Wolff on the radio to Michael Massey. Michael, this isn't right. Michael, that's so not right. And he gets hit back with, Toto, it's called a motor race. We went car racing. In my very bad Australian accent there. But
just try to rub it into me now.
I don't... Yeah, we'll get to that. But if you take everything aside...
every day.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if you take everything else to the side...
2 hours.
Toto does give some good radio messages when he's angry. Especially being able to listen to their conversations with Michael Massey was very, very interesting, very telling last year, I think.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially at the end.
Yeah,
smashing the headphones up. You might have trouble to speak to him now, but...
I think telling for the wrong reasons, perhaps.
But...
Yeah, the teams and they have their fingers all in the pie, you know.
Mitchell, radio message.
So I could say could pick any of Kimmy's, but I thought I'd try to stay away from Kimmy. I've gone for one here with Toto and Michael Massey was as well. He goes, Michael, I sent you an email, and then Massey replied, Toto, I don't access my emails during the race.
Yeah.
For me, it's a bit odd because surely you have a work email. You should be.
There was so many memes made of this.
It was quite a meme one.
I think he was sending the two a picture of the overtake.
Silverstone, I believe, was it?
Yeah, I think it was a Verstappen overtake that they weren't happy about.
I thought because they're really good friends, I thought they might have their numbers, but
yeah, I was gonna say an email. It's like, well, I'm in the middle of the race trying to
How quickly did he write that email? It was straight away. And it had diagrams in it.
I don't think he was writing it, but
no, probably.
It was Hampton in the car.
All good times, and I think hopefully we'll, as much as I love. I think actually they're taking away the ability for principals to call the FIA race directors immediately, and I think that is a good idea because I think it was too messy. The pressure 100%. Is too high on the race director, and to be able to hear it was a good insight. I like that we could just to expose how messy it was, but I think that needs to stop.
Yeah, it should be private first of all, and then I think there's way too many complaining FIA.
I think
not FIA, people talking to the FIA.
People in the team, they shouldn't be able to have that direct contact because in your one, it's motor racing. That was a direct quote from what Christian Horner had said to him to Michael Massey. So it's evident how much they are influenced.
And I think you can't help that. I mean, Michael Massey, either way, you can argue it, but even if he was completely unbiased, trying his very, very best, such a stressful situation to have the control. And when you've got these two very strong personalities in Toto and Horner, I mean, you're gonna be influenced, aren't you, by both, and that's gonna be in your head.
Yeah.
We'll move on before we get too deep into that. Another fun one. Best livery of the season.
Mitchell, do you want to go first?
Well, I went for Mercedes. I didn't know you could go for special ones, so...
Well, that's all right. The Mercedes was...
So I went for Mercedes. That was my favourite one, without the special...
the one-off ones.
The one-off ones, yeah. So that was my favourite. I just loved it. I loved the black. But at first, I did miss the silver. Then I got used to the black and I just fell in love with it.
I think it definitely looks better. It looks great out on track. It looks dangerous. It looks threatening.
Well, not that dangerous, though, apparently. So.
Harry, what did you go for?
Well, I think secretly we all agree. What car
this
is the best?
This would have been mine.
The white Red Bull. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
The
I would
contrast with the original one, it was meant for the Japanese Grand Prix
Which
to
was
celebrate.
cancelled.
Yeah, to celebrate the Honda partnership, but because it was cancelled, was at Turkey, and I wish they kept it all season, baby. I
Yeah.
loved it.
I'd like to say I fell in love with it as well.
It made a nice change from the blue because it looks the same every year, the Red Bull.
Yeah.
So it was nice to
even
have
the
it.
Red Bull. I'm a massive Red Bull. The car normally, but the white is beautiful.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could fall in love with the car.
Yeah.
But I seriously
I
have.
want it framed on my wall.
Yeah.
But I tried to get an argument that the black Mercedes was better, but blank paper. Couldn't think of anything.
Well, I do have an argument. I think that the McLaren that they run at Monaco to celebrate the golf partnership, I thought was stunning. The orange and the light blue.
Nah.
It was more blue.
Had you switched the
than
mics
normal.
off?
I thought it was really good looking. I thought it made a nice change, and I think it's testament that they kept some of that and brought it into this year's.
Yeah.
The fans obviously really responded well to it, and they've made their car look a bit more like that this year. And I think that just shows how well received it was, because Red Bull aren't running a white car this year, are they?
For some reason, they are not. No,
Yeah.
but I remember really liking it. I think at the time, but going back, obviously, I just quickly
not
looked at
bad,
some
it's not
photos.
bad.
It's not. I like it. I do like
It's
it.
a car.
Yeah,
It's just
but
a
I
car.
think the blue that they have this year stands out a bit more.
Yeah.
I think in certain things, I thought it was white on the car. It didn't pop, at least
No.
from the photos.
It was a reference to a car from a while ago,
Oh,
so
for
they
sure,
didn't
it
have
has-
the
yeah,
choice
yeah.
of the
I was
colours.
gonna say.
But I think the Alfa Romeo is better looking than the
Do you think?
McLaren. Yeah.
I'll have to
Uh,
find someone else to partake in episode 2.
Yeah, we'll have a new host. No, I think they're all
Well, that's my Friday evening sorted.
all solid choices. Let's talk a little bit, just quickly, because we have talked about the teams quite in general. But team of the season, team of the
Ooh.
season. I don't think we talked about this, but I'm just going to throw that one out there. We talked about drivers, we talked about podiums, in general as a package.
Controversial. I'm going to go for Williams because of the improvements that they made.
You mean?
know,
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna say it's mainly George Russell. What?
George Russell got
a
16
team.
points. Obviously, some of them coming
Yeah.
from the half points at Spa, but I think Latifi got 7 as well, 6
Yeah,
or
he did,
7 by
he did.
himself. So I thought
I think that's mainly because of crashes and stuff. to be
they
fair.
were, I think, performing
Yeah.
a lot better than they had done in previous years. So, Red Bull, Mercedes always at the top, McLaren maybe, people
Yeah.
expected maybe a little bit more, Ferrari maybe a little bit more. The AlphaTauri did very, very well, but I think the Williams, they're definitely hopefully on an upward trajectory now. They obviously the top change in ownership and management, so hopefully good things to come, but they definitely stood out to me.
I think having a strong Williams on the grid is
nice.
just a benefit for the sport.
Yeah.
Obviously, we
big
lost
name.
Frank and Claire's moved on, but I think with the name Williams, you still have quite a lot of history there. And I agree. I think they made good strides. I hope they'll make further strides in the coming season. Latifi, I think, does get overlooked. I know he's not the greatest driver on the grid, and he is a pay driver, but I think he was fairly consistent. He did score points, and I think, if anything, it shows the car is improving.
Yes.
No, yeah, it couldn't get much worse than from last season, to be honest. But
Yeah.
it is. Well, Haas managed to do it, so
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I think Haas might have got worse than Williams getting better, to be honest.
just a very stagnant car, yeah. So
Yeah.
I think you could argue that. Mitchell, team of the season.
I'm actually gonna say Red Bull.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you got just to beat Mercedes is an incredible achievement
Yeah.
by itself. I think even Perez shined for me, especially that just the only thing I can remember during the whole season is Perez blocking Hamilton
Yeah.
for about
Such a
it felt
defense.
like 2 years, but
Yeah, it did.
a
It
long
was-
Yeah.
time.
I think his car was a lot wider than it was allowed
Yeah.
to be. That's what it
he
felt
sort of
like.
put his arms out as well.
Yeah.
So no, I think 100% Red Bull. Just to beat Mercedes alone was just a massive achievement, and how much that hurt me to say,
Yeah.
but 100% Red Bull.
I agree. I think Red Bull finally had a car that was strong from the off.
Hmm.
And, once they did, the team came together to, exploit that as much as they can. And I would go with that. But after the disaster that the previous season was, I'm going to go with Ferrari.
Ooh.
I think
No,
they made.
that's good.
I think they made a big leap. They,
Yeah.
you
It
know,
was only a disaster because they cheated, but with
Well,
the engine. So
I don't know if you could prove that, but
if you don't have an engine in, then it's hard to
Yeah.
compete.
yeah. But they did make
So-
strides, even controversy aside.
Yeah.
They leapfrogged McLaren to finish third in the constructors, which you could say McLaren maybe deserved it more, got a bit unlucky.
No, they got very unlucky. But I know that doesn't take anything away from Ferrari.
I think
Sainz was incredible, like I mentioned before. Leclerc, though, was consistent and had some couple of very good races, like in Azerbaijan. Oh, Monaco was it? He crashed. He was winning it and then
Leclerc,
crashed.
yeah.
Leclerc, yeah. So.
Strategically, perhaps.
Yeah.
But no, like I say, they've just had an incredible season.
they did impress me, and I think
Not incredible, but they had a decent season.
a fast Ferrari is, I think, no matter how you feel, gets the blood pumping. Whether
It's
you're
scary.
for them or you're against
It is
them.
scary.
So I think hopefully we
Like
get
to
more
me,
of
like the
that.
My Night of
Yeah.
F1.
For
You
sure.
hate them or you love them.
Yeah.
They've just been there forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's sort of going through the same struggle as My Night. So.
So we have touched on the Massey stuff a little bit. I wonder if either of you two had anything else to add to that.
How long do you have?
Without explicit language, let's just
Keep it friendly.
My mum and sister, hopefully. Well, I say hopefully, probably not. I'll be listening to it. So, I don't know. It's obvious, isn't it?
I don't think people want to
He's
hear too
clearly
much.
cheated.
No.
He's,
Yeah.
it's
I
hard to
think-
say without.
You could see it coming from a mile off because the whole season we watched like a lot of the races together and we were saying there's so much inconsistency.
But I genuinely thought at this big race, it should have been a red flag. I know they said they wouldn't give it the red flag at that corner, but
Yeah.
it had
Yeah.
a red flag would have saved everything. But
Yeah.
he said there wasn't going to be a red flag, so he stuck to his guns. But
You
Well,
gotta
as long as
have
there's-
consistency.
Yeah.
The rules
There
don't
wasn't.
have that. Hopefully the season will be better. Obviously Massey has left, moved to a different role, I believe, but he's no longer race director. And I hope that I don't think that will fix it alone. I think
I think you need more people.
clarification on the rules. You got to take as much as we want good racing first, and I think hopefully the regulations will change that. The rules have to be set no matter what outside stuff is going on. Otherwise, you're going to get teams complaining, and I think those complaints are fair enough.
I think the complaints are fair, but like I think there has to be limited. Like I think they get the final ruling. Like a bit like in
Yeah,
rugby,
for sure.
where
As long as those rulings are consistent as well.
no, consistent. You can
Yeah.
play it after, but I'm just like more during the race.
Yeah, for sure. During the race, I mean,
Yeah.
guys, that was
I'll just turn the
that was
mics off.
too much.
Everyone's
Yeah,
just like,
exactly.
Before the final race, we all went home. We didn't watch it together, but we said to each other, we don't care who wins because they've both been incredible all season. All we care about is that it's a fair race and that it's not influenced by the race director.
I
and
didn't think it would be, even though
race
every race
direct-
pretty much was.
the race
but
director called the championship. He is the
Yeah.
one that made that
I know,
decision.
it's all about him.
Yeah.
He's got the headlines.
He wanted a whole episode to himself on Drive to
Yeah,
Survive.
I saw something about that. About how some people were saying that he did that for the Netflix.
Netflix show.
Yeah.
And the Netflix producer of the series had to come out and say no.
Yeah, I saw that as
But
well.
we all know it was. But I'm surprised Massey didn't get episode by just by
I doubt we
himself.
would
Well, the
agree to it
trophy.
somehow.
It's all about him, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanted the headlines, and you got the headlines of our podcast. So fair
And
play.
on that note, I think we'll take final thoughts, so then we'll pack this one down.
Well, Massey has to go. He's already gone.
He's already gone, yeah.
But
You could
I'm glad
say
he's gone,
you
but
could say Massey is on benefits.
you could. And if you need a job, we've got a spare seat
I
next
was
to
going to
us.
say he's
so-
more than
yeah.
welcome on our podcast.
We love you, Michael Massey, so please come.
I'm alright not to have him on as a guest, to be honest.
Yeah, me too, to be honest. So,
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Rear Winging It podcast.
thank you.
I've been Harry Mckay.
I'll be Mitch Menell.
And Ellie Ledwell.
Thank you.